I didn't know that at the time. Seemed to be tiring, so I asked him if I could take over for him.
As Dr. Devane continued with the chest compressions.
For nearly half a century, the basement of Elvis Presley's iconic Memphis mansion remained untouched and unexplored. But now, after 48 years, the mystery of what lay beneath has finally been revealed. Who was inside, and what secrets did it expose? Join us as we uncover the details behind this shocking discovery and the impact it could have on Elvis's legacy. The quiet struggle of Elvis Presley. When Elvis Presley officially ended his marriage with Priscilla on October 9, 1973, his life was falling apart away from the public eye. Even though they were no longer husband and wife, they stayed connected for the sake of their daughter, Lisa Marie. They maintained a close relationship and made an effort to provide stability for their daughter. However, as Elvis adjusted to his new lifestyle, his health began to deteriorate. In the same year, his body began to show signs of severe exhaustion and damage. He took too many barbiturates and was in a coma for days in his hotel room, overdosing. He had to go to the hospital shortly after because of problems caused by his dependence to painkillers. His doctor, George Nikopoulos, said that Elvis thought getting prescriptions from a doctor was safer, but his body was clearly being harmed. He talks about Dr. Nikopoulos. The substances were greatly affecting him, both physically and mentally. However, Elvis did not take a break. He challenged himself more than before. Just in 1973, he did 168 performances, his toughest schedule yet. In the following year, he kept up with another exhausting set of concerts, even though his health was deteriorating. Those around him started noticing signs of strain. In September 1974, things took a turn for the worse. When Elvis showed up at a concert in Maryland, his band members immediately noticed that something was off. He fell to his knees while exiting the limousine, declining assistance from anyone. While on stage, he held onto the microphone for support, clearly struggling to remain upright. Onlookers were worried. Some questioned if the tour would go on. His speech was slurred, and his bloated, tired appearance was alarming. Even those who knew him well could hardly recognize the man they once deeply admired. His performances had become difficult to watch as his energy was rapidly diminishing. The songs were still being sung, but the vitality was fading quickly. In July 1976, there was another tough situation for Elvis Presley and his team. Elvis's father, Vernon Presley, decided to let go of 3 of his longtime bodyguards, Red West, Sonny West, and David Hebler. These men were close to Elvis, but Vernon claimed it was to save money. Some suspected Elvis avoided the conflict. Others believed it was because the bodyguards had been talking about Elvis's substance problem. The firings caused controversy and showed that things were getting tense behind the scenes. Elvis was starting to lose his connection with the recording studio. In December 1973, he had a successful session that produced material for 2 albums, but he did not record anything new in 1974. Instead, his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, gave RCA a live album from a concert in Memphis. One of the songs from that concert, How Great Thou Art, earned Elvis his last Grammy Award. All 3 Grammy wins he got while alive were for gospel music, which deeply moved him unlike anything else. In 1975, he returned to the studio, but it did not last long. He tried to set up another recording session later that year, but it did not work out. In 1976, RCA had to bring a portable recording unit to Graceland to make things easier for him. 2 full recording sessions took place at home, but they were difficult. Elvis had trouble staying focused. He used to light up every room, but now he found the studio frustratingly quiet. Singing each song was a struggle for him. His voice still had magic, but it was becoming harder to bring it out. Could these struggles have pushed him to retreat to his basement, away from the fame and pressure? But first, did he truly pass away? The final months of Elvis Presley. At the end of 1976, Elvis Presley was not the vibrant superstar he used to be. His health was deteriorating and his glamorous life had become more low-key and private. After breaking up with Linda Thompson, Elvis started dating Ginger Alden in November. He asked her to marry him just 2 months later. People close to him thought he was trying to find something meaningful like stability, comfort, or hope. Behind the scenes, Elvis was having a hard time. His body, which used to be lively and full of rhythm, was now starting to show the toll of years of tiredness, pressure, and taking a lot of medication. He had put on a lot of weight, and people could see that he wasn't as energetic on stage as before. Sometimes at concerts, his speech was unclear, and he would forget the words to his songs. There were moments when he struggled to get through a performance and had to cancel shows. In Baton Rouge, he was so unwell that he couldn't even get out of bed. As a result, 4 concerts had to be rescheduled. However, Elvis did not give up. He continued to go on tours, fulfill his responsibilities, and attend events for his fans, even though his body needed a break. While there were worries from the public and some of his fans were let down, Elvis carried on with his performances. He started to withdraw into a more secluded life. Spending more time in his room, he immersed himself in books about spirituality and religion. He would engage in long conversations with his family, reminiscing about funny memories, enjoying old comedy shows, and quietly discussing his feelings. In June 1977, Elvis Presley came out with a new song called Way Down. It ended up being the last song he would release while he was still alive. During that same month, CBS filmed 2 of his concert performances for a TV special. At the first show in Omaha, he seemed very sick. His voice was not as strong, and he struggled to hit the right notes at times. Just 2 days later in South Dakota, he seemed to be doing a little better. He had lost some weight, and his singing sounded slightly stronger. However, by the end of the show, he appeared worn out, with a sweaty and pale face. Elvis performed his last show on June 26, 1977 in Indianapolis. Little did anyone know that it would be his final concert before his passing. At the same time, there was a problem arising. A book authored by 3 of Elvis's past bodyguards came out earlier this month. These men used to be close to him, and they revealed his extensive substance use. Elvis felt deeply hurt by their betrayal. He attempted to prevent the book from being published, even offering money to stop it from being released. However, it was already out in the open. People were starting to see the suffering hidden behind his fame. At this time, Elvis was not just upset emotionally, but also in serious physical danger. He had various health problems like high blood pressure, liver issues, and enlarged colon and glaucoma. Some people thought that the consequences of using prescription substances for a long time made his condition worse. Nevertheless, he attempted to find happiness in his way. In early August, shortly before passing away, he reserved a whole amusement park for himself and a small group of friends. This event marked his last public appearance, a peaceful and joyful moment away from the public eye. On August 16, 1977, Elvis Presley was supposed to fly to Maine to begin another tour. Ginger Alden discovered him unconscious on the bathroom floor at Graceland that afternoon. Efforts to resuscitate him were unsuccessful. He was rushed to Baptist Memorial Hospital, where he was pronounced dead at 3:30 p.m. They talk about Elvis Presley's death. He was only 42 years old. The world was shocked by the news of his death. Fans mourned outside Graceland. President Jimmy Carter praised Elvis for his impact on American culture. A photo of his open casket, taken by a cousin, made headlines. This photo became one of the most popular tabloid covers. Ginger Alden shared her story even though she was not mentioned in Elvis's will. Elvis's funeral was held at Graceland on August 18. Unfortunately, there was a tragic accident outside the gates where a car collided with a group of fans. 2 young women lost their lives, and another was severely injured. Approximately 80,000 individuals gathered to bid farewell as his body was transported to Forest Hill Cemetery to be buried beside his mother. Even after his death, Elvis's music continued to be popular. Shortly after he passed away, his song Way Down became a hit on the country and UK singles charts. His music continued to resonate with people globally. Later that summer, when someone attempted to steal his body, Elvis and his mother were relocated to the meditation garden at Graceland. This tranquil and lovely area was exactly the type of place Elvis would have chosen for his eternal rest. However, Elvis's death did not just cause mourning, it also sparked widespread speculation because of the circumstances surrounding it. The truth behind Elvis's final hours. When Elvis Presley passed away, doctors worked quickly to figure out the cause of his sudden death. An autopsy started right away. And before it was even complete, Memphis medical examiner Jerry Francisco stated publicly that Elvis had passed away from cardiac arrest and not from illegal substances. He talks about Elvis' cause of death, but not everyone believed this explanation right away. Over time, as more information was examined, the situation became easier to understand, yet also more concerning. Although Francisco had blamed a heart problem for Elvis's death, other professionals believed that substances probably had a significant impact. During the autopsy, the team had suspicions that Elvis may have had a severe allergic reaction to codeine pills prescribed by his dentist. He had a mild allergy to codeine, but this time the reaction could have been more severe than usual. 2 months after the autopsy, the laboratory results were received. The results presented a new perspective. The findings revealed that Elvis had a total of 14 different substances in his system at the time of his death. 10 of these substances were in quantities that could impact his health. It was hard to ignore the connection between his passing and substances. In 1979, Cyril Wecht, a well-known forensic pathologist, examined the case and determined that a combination of sedatives and other depressant substances probably played a role in Elvis's accidental death. Michael Baden, a forensic science expert, also examined the case. He said the situation was complex. Elvis had a larger-than-normal heart for a while, and this, along with years of substance use, probably caused his death. Baden mentioned that it was always challenging to diagnose Elvis, and doctors had to be cautious in their assessments. However, some people also had concerns about the behavior of certain doctors. Jerry Francisco announced the cause of death before finishing the substance tests. He said that the issue could only be diagnosed in a living person, causing suspicion of possible deception. This led to rumors of a cover-up spreading. Another physician, George Nicopolis, had been Elvis's doctor for a long time. He talks about treating Elvis. In 1981, he was brought to trial. Even though he was not convicted of a crime, the details of the case shocked many people. During the first 8 months of 1977 alone, Nicopolis had prescribed over 10,000 doses of various substances to Elvis, including sedatives, stimulants, and painkillers. This high number of prescriptions raised serious concerns. While he did not serve prison time, Nicopolis did have his medical license suspended for 3 months. Years later, his license was permanently revoked when new charges were brought against him. In 1994, the autopsy report was re-examined by a different medical examiner named Joseph Davis. He concluded that substances were not the reason for Elvis's death, but instead believed it was a sudden heart attack. Additionally, it was revealed that Jerry Francisco did not speak for all the doctors in 1977, and some pathologists felt that the full cause of death couldn't be determined until all the lab results were available. One of the pathologists, Dr. E. Eric Muirhead, was shocked and disappointed by Francisco's premature public announcement. The doctors thoroughly examined Elvis's body and discovered evidence of long-standing health issues. Elvis was dealing with various chronic illnesses such as diabetes, glaucoma, and severe constipation. Additionally, the autopsy unveiled a disturbing finding. His body had suffered extensive damage from prolonged use of powerful medications. The doctors also reviewed hospital records, which indicated that Elvis had sought treatment for substance addiction multiple times and had undergone methadone therapy. Despite the official reports, there were still rumors that Elvis was alive. But what could have started this belief, and could it be true? The mystery that never fades. Ever since Elvis Presley passed away, there have been ongoing rumors about him. Many found it difficult to believe that someone so vibrant and adored could suddenly be gone. This caused disbelief and seemed surreal to some. Consequently, various stories began to emerge. These stories were shared verbally, in various settings such as homes, restaurants, on the radio, and eventually on the internet. People were seeking reasons behind his death, and when they couldn't find any, they started coming up with theories. One popular belief is that Elvis Presley may have faked his death to get away from the demands of stardom. They imagine the famous musician leaving the hospital without anyone noticing, avoiding the media and fans, to live a quiet life where he can be unknown. They picture him living peacefully on a beach or in a small town, fitting in as a regular person without the pressures of being a celebrity. The story goes on. Over time, many people claim to have seen him at different locations such as airports, gas stations, and malls. They said he looked older, but his face was still familiar. Some even said they recognized his voice. Although it was quieter now, photographs were taken, although they were unclear and taken from a distance. The figures in the images looked like him, but none were confirmed to be him. Each time a new photo or story surfaced, it renewed hope for those who refused to believe that he was gone. Then there was an unusual discovery at his burial site. People visiting his grave at Graceland noticed something strange. His middle name was spelled differently. Despite being born Elvis Aaron Presley, his tombstone read Aaron. Some found this discrepancy to be meaningful. They believed it could be a clue suggesting that the person buried there might not be Elvis. Some people thought the tribute was for his twin brother who passed away at birth. Others saw it as symbolic. Many were curious about the reason behind it. Some thought Elvis was involved in mysterious plots. People speculated he had connections to powerful people and went into hiding. A few believed he went into witness protection with help from the government. This story seemed like it came from a thrilling movie, with danger and secrets. However, there was no proof to back up these statements, just more guessing and gossip spreading like prized possessions. As time passed, tales about Elvis grew in popularity and became a significant part of his reputation. He wasn't just remembered as a singer or entertainer, but as something mysterious and fantastical. Books were written and TV programs were created about him. Fans visited Graceland not just to grieve his passing, but also to contemplate the chance that he could still be living and observing. Despite causing excitement, the majority of individuals chose to believe in facts rather than rumors. There was no solid proof to support the various theories being circulated. Even without solid evidence, the rumors had a certain appeal. Instead of being fueled by anger or fear, they showcased the genuine care people felt. It was hard to come to terms with the passing of someone who had brought so much music, happiness, and solace to the world. Love has the power to make one believe in things that seem impossible. But what did they find in Elvis's basement, and why was it closed up for decades? The room Elvis never left. They used to describe Graceland as simply a residence, a museum, a tribute. It was a spot where admirers could connect with a music icon who had a lasting impact on the industry. Visitors explored the corridors, lingered at the iconic entrance, and placed flowers at Elvis Presley's burial site. She talks about fans' tribute to Elvis. Guides shared stories about his life, loved ones, and last hours in the upper floors. However, there was a portion of Graceland that was always kept quiet, a lower level that was not mentioned in any promotional material or guide map, the basement. It wasn't simply concealed, it was completely taken out of the narrative. There were no tours, no photos, and no entry allowed. Even employees who had been around for a long time stayed away from it. People were informed that it was off-limits for privacy reasons, but that wasn't the full story. The true reason remained a closely guarded secret for almost 5 decades. Buried deep beneath the jungle room and hidden beyond the gold records, there was something else, something that had been sealed off since Elvis passed away in 1977. And the reason behind why the entrance to that place was locked from inside was never disclosed. In early 2025, the lock finally broke. Initially, there were rumors circulating. These were later confirmed by a press release from Graceland. The officials claimed it was just routine maintenance and preservation, nothing out of the ordinary. However, behind the scenes, the situation was far from normal. It was deemed urgent. A special team was assembled, consisting of experts such as historians, security specialists, and archivists. All members of this team were required to keep everything confidential. They were instructed to be ready for any situation. They brought with them specific tools, scanning devices, and protective equipment. Their goal was straightforward: to enter the basement. This area of the house had not been disturbed in almost 50 years. They found a secret staircase hidden behind a fake wall which led them down. The wallpaper in the basement was starting to come off. The air down there was heavy and smelled old. Each step they took made a creaking noise, getting louder with each step. It seemed as though the house was silent. A faint light hung from a cord at the bottom. Dust particles sparkled in the light like tiny stars. Covered by cloths, old furniture was present. A record player held a warped vinyl record. Elvis's sunglasses were placed on a velvet cushion. Everything was silent, motionless, anticipating something. Then they witnessed it with their eyes. A door was partially open and did not have a lock. It seemed like it had been waiting for a while. There was movement in the dark behind the door. They walked through. The room they walked into appeared unchanged. It wasn't a replica or imitation, it was genuine, a part of history perfectly preserved. It was the TV room, a place fans had only read about. Now it was right in front of them, just as it was left. 3 old televisions placed next to each other, just as people described. They flickered with faint static, facing a small couch as if expecting Elvis to return and watch the news. The room had a lot of character. It had black and yellow walls, a mirrored ceiling, and a shaggy carpet. A lightning bolt design decorated one wall, similar to his motto, TCB, taking care of business. He talks about the motto. There were old magazines on the side table and dusty, empty soda bottles. Loafers were left near the couch as if the owner had just stepped out for a moment. Nothing was planned. Nothing was kept secret. It was simply Elvis's environment, remaining as if he had never truly departed. However, this is not where the mystery ends. Elvis's pool room has also raised many questions. Why was it locked away? Could someone have been quietly playing pool while the rest of the world searched for answers? The secret behind the pool room. The group went from one room to another, but they were not expecting what they saw next. The pool room at Graceland was not like any other part of the mansion. It felt like a completely different world. The walls and ceiling were covered in fabric in shades of blue, gold, and orange, giving it a unique and bold look. It felt like walking into a painting from the year 1974, surreal and vibrant. This room was where Elvis would retreat to relax with friends or be by himself, away from the public eye. As the restoration team walked in, the atmosphere shifted. It seemed like time had frozen instead of passing by. The pool table was where it should be, with the felt still in good condition and the balls set up as if someone had just stepped away. The room's special lights turned on, giving everything a gentle golden light. The chairs, cue racks, and even some old cigarette packs were all undisturbed, as if time had stood still for them. Everything appeared flawless, almost unnaturally so. One person detected something unusual at that moment. The quiet was very intense, not just a regular calm, but a dense quietness that felt heavy on the chest. There were no footprints or indications of any movement. However, the modern security system in the building, which was regularly checked and tested, did not show anything out of the ordinary. This was confusing. The crew started to sense something that they couldn't understand. It wasn't fear or related to ghosts. It was a different feeling. A presence was felt by the crew. Something unusual occurred next. It wasn't paranormal, but it was disturbing. While the team was inspecting the room for structural issues, one of the technicians stopped suddenly. They had spotted movement in their peripheral vision. It wasn't a figment of their imagination or a trick of the light. There was definitely something there. Behind a drooping curtain and a bent wooden panel, they discovered a small passageway. This secret space had never been talked about or included in any official plans. Even staff members who had been at Graceland for a long time were surprised by its existence. The passage was tiny and had a low ceiling. There was a hidden chamber at the end that was completely sealed. Everything was covered in dust. In there, they discovered storage crates, old ones that were sealed with tape and labeled with codes from the late 1970s. The air inside felt thick and heavy. This room had not been touched by time in many decades. The boxes contained items that were very personal to Elvis, such as his books, handwritten notes on napkins, and clothing. There were also home movies on 8mm reels, which families used to preserve memories. In addition, there was a stack of reel-to-reel audio tapes that had not been touched since the 1970s and were hand-labeled. The team brought in security and the estate's leading historians. They turned off phones and restricted access. The contents of the tapes have not been completely disclosed. They were not shown to the media or fans. However, one crew member privately revealed a small detail later on. The original recording did not resemble music or a practice session. Instead, it was Elvis speaking into a tape recorder by himself, not for anyone else or a performance, just his voice in the darkness, wanting to leave a personal and final mark. Something had been kept secret in the pool room for almost 50 years without making any noise. Finally, someone had discovered it. But what did these discoveries reveal? And how do they change the way we see this icon, the secrets beneath Graceland? When a previously closed section of Graceland's basement was eventually opened, no one anticipated the surprising discovery waiting inside. Initially appearing like a typical area of the house with vintage furniture and outdated electronics, it soon became evident that this was not just any forgotten room. It was a very intimate space, Elvis Presley's private hideaway during his final years. This basement served as his secluded sanctuary, a quiet refuge where he could evade the public eye and avoid the hectic demands of his fame. Archivists found items inside that revealed a meaningful story. The shelves contained neatly arranged vinyl records, handwritten notes, and old recording equipment. Nothing was messy or covered in dust. It seemed like Elvis himself had carefully arranged everything. The locked cases held sealed letters, personal diaries, and old audio tapes. These items were only labeled with dates, not names or titles. Some of the audio tapes were recorded shortly before Elvis passed away in August 1977. Historians think that these recordings were not intended for the public to hear. They could include Elvis's innermost thoughts that he did not share with others. Elvis was known for being private and not always trusting the media or even some people close to him. These tapes could show a different side of Elvis that the world never saw, not just the famous singer, but the person behind the music. Initially, only a small group of people were aware of the discovery. Collectors and experts in music history shared the information discreetly. However, The news quickly spread and became a popular topic of discussion. The estate took immediate action, stating that the reopening was just a routine inspection. They mentioned that old items had been discovered, possibly for future exhibition. When questioned about specific items like tapes, journals, and letters, they remained tight-lipped. The lack of sound intrigued people even more. They wondered what was recorded on those tapes. Were they just random musings or something more important? Is it possible that Elvis was bidding farewell in his way, leaving a message for the world that he never had the chance to say out loud? It remains a mystery. The recordings have not been made public in their entirety. Only a few clues and rumors have been disclosed. The basement was not just a place to chill out. It held emotions, memories, and significance. Even decades after Elvis Presley passed away, his voice is still being listened to in a fresh and authentic way, free from the influence of fame. Currently, fans and experts are focused once more on Graceland. It is not just seen as a representation of Elvis's achievements, but also as a place where his authentic self could have been kept secret. Specialists have begun meticulously examining all the items uncovered. The location has been closed off again to keep it safe. It remains uncertain when or if the public will have the chance to view all of the findings. One thing is for sure, Elvis Presley's story is not over. There are still secrets to be uncovered in his legacy. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.